This lesson is on two-way frequency tables. We talked a little bit about them in our data and statistics overview lesson, and now we're going to dive a little bit deeper. So the first thing we're going to talk about is interpreting them. So in a two-way frequency table, we have frequency is the number of times an event occurs, which would be an individual box. So maybe this box right here. So 6 people have a cat and a dog. And that's a frequency of cat and dog. A relative frequency is frequency related as a total expressed as a fraction or decimal. So a relative frequency might be that 6 out of the 9 people who have a cat also have a dog. A two-way table just shows data that's categorized in 2 ways, so 2 different variables. At the first table, we're looking at whether people have a cat and whether people have a dog, so 2 different categories. Joint frequency is found by dividing any number that is not in the column total or row total by the grand total. So this relative frequency table is expressed in percents. So 24% of the people have a cat and a dog. And then a marginal frequency is found by dividing any number that is in the column total or row by the grand total. So a marginal frequency is going to occur in the margins of the table. A joint frequency is going to occur in the main section of the table. That's really all you need to know about marginal and joint frequency. So looking at example 1, it says the data below shows the eye and hair color of students in Mr. Hopkins' 3rd period civics class. Use the two-way frequency table to answer the questions below. So if I look at this, this is showing me the number of students. So I know that this is expressed in the number of students because this number is not 100, which means that it's not expressed as a percent. So this is not a relative frequency table because it's not expressed in percents. How many students have brown hair? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to where it talks about brown hair, and I'm going to look at the total of people that have brown hair, which is 10. And that is a marginal frequency. Next, it asks me how many students have green eyes. So green eyes, total people that have green eyes is 3. How many students have brown hair and brown eyes? So brown hair is this box right here, and brown eyes. So I need to look at where they overlap, which would be this box right here. So there are 6 students that have brown hair and brown eyes. The last question is asking me what percentage of students have blonde hair and blue eyes. So blonde hair, blue eyes, look at the overlap. So that's 4 students, but it asks me for a percent. So 4 out of the 22 students. And if I calculate that as a percent, it's 18%, approximately. So those are some of the ways that we can use a frequency table to answer those questions. Now we're going to look at completing a frequency table. So we'll start with example 2. And it says the data below shows the enrollment of students in language classes at Citrus High. Complete the table. So first thing I'm going to look at is my marginal frequencies. I know that the grand total has to be 400. So that means that if I already used 54, 72, and 106, there's 168 students left to be in 9th grade. Now, I can also calculate other frequencies based on my marginal frequencies now that they're all filled in. So if I want to start at 9th grade, fill in the 9th grade, I have all but one value. So 168 students are in 8th grade. minus the 0 in Latin, minus the 14 in German, minus the 71 in French, leaves me with 83 students that take Spanish. I can also go ahead and fill in the 12th grade Spanish students based on the marginal frequency of 155. There are 155 students that take Spanish, minus the 83 freshmen, 46 sophomores, and 12 juniors, leaves me with 14 seniors taking Spanish. I can also fill in the 11th graders taking Latin. There are 32 total students taking Latin, minus the 18 seniors, minus the 4 sophomores, minus the 0 freshmen, leaves me with 10 students that are in 11th grade and taking Latin. So I'm going to work through the table and fill these in gradually. So I can also fill in 12th grade students in French because there are 54 total seniors. 14 of them in Spanish, 9 of them in German, 18 in Latin, leaves 13 for French. And now, because I know that there are 137 students taking French, I can fill in the 10th graders taking French. So there are 34 spots left for sophomores in French. That will help me fill in the sophomores in German. I know there are 106 total sophomores, 46 of them in Spanish, 34 of them in French, 4 of them in Latin, leaves 22 in German. And now I can fill in my last little bit of the table. There will be 31 students that are in 11th grade and taking German. Now I want you to work on completing example 3 on your own. Last but not least, we're going to talk about creating frequency tables. So we're going to use the information that's given to us in the word problem and create the table. So in example 4, it says, at lunch, the entire 8th grade class of 320 students were surveyed to see if they were left or right-handed. Only 36 students were left-handed. Exactly 45% of the 8th grade class were boys, 127 of which are right-handed. So I know I can fill in the grand total of 320 students. I also know that 36 total students were left-handed. I also know that there are 127 boys who are right-handed. So I can use marginal frequencies to figure out the total number of right-handed students. So there are 320 total students. 36 of them are left-handed, which means that 284 of them have to be right-handed. Of those 284 students, 127 of them are boys, which means that 157 of them have to be girls. Now I'm going to have to use the percentage that they gave me. 45% of the 8th grade class are boys to help me finish out some of the rest of this table. So of the 320 students, 45% of them are boys. So 320 times 0.45 is 144, which means that there are 176 girls. Of the 144 boys, 127 of them are right-handed, and if I subtract that, that means 17 of them are left-handed. And of the 36 left-handed students, 17 of them are boys, which means that if I subtract that, 19 of them are going to be girls. So there's an example of filling in a table. Now what I want you to do for example 5 is work on filling in the table yourself.